Okay, we're not going to waste any time because time is of the essence. Talk is sometimes cheap, and I am trying to earn a dollar, I guess. Whatever that means. Just freestyling. How are you? Welcome back to the O.M.G podcast. I'm just going to get right into it. This week, and if we can get this out on time, um, we're going to see the release of the film Superfly. And when I first saw the trailer of the film, I do recall that they were making it, but I didn't think at that time when it was announced that they were actually in production. And then I saw pictures and I wondered, I said, oh, is this going into production or are they done? Then I saw, or I read that it was getting released this summer, and I said, oh, this is done. But this image here, which was this year, made it seem as if they were going into production. They were already done with production. I bring this all up to say it makes me think, or makes me wonder or question if Hollywood is trying to slide back in the blaxploitation era because they should have completed production on Shaft. They did another Shaft film with Samuel L. Jackson, and I guess he has his son, so his son is the lead in a cameo or whatever, small supporting role from Richard Roundtree. And I did see an image of the three of them wearing long trench coats. I wasn't happy with it. I wasn't happy with what I read. But these are two films that started in that era. They supposedly say that Shaft is the film that kind of ushered in, the blaxploitation era. I have to do some research to even go back to find out how that even got its tag. Regardless, um, and as far as I'm concerned, just the blaxploitation era is black people beating up on white people. I guess going up against the man and all that other shit. And it was a time where the cinema, movie theaters, movies, they weren't really playing well. They were doing really shit business. Um, and then they found out after Sweet Sweetback's, Melvin Van Peebles' Sweet Sweetback's badass song, that there was a black audience and people were coming out in droves when this film came out. It was very, very indie. I would suggest that you all, if you can find it, stream it, rent it, purchase it. Actually, you should purchase it. Anyone that's in an independent state as far as filmmaking or anything is concerned, you should get the film Badass, directed by Mario Van Peebles, who's the son of Melvin Van Peebles. It tells the story of Melvin Van Peebles making the film Sweet Sweetback. And Mario played a heavy part in the making of that film. So it's from both perspectives, and they're both still alive. But I would suggest getting that film. It will really get you into the indie spirit. So, long story short, what happens is Sweet Sweetback drops. It's a very revolutionary type of film as far as uh, the black perspective, as far as the indie perspective, and as far as putting asses in seats, that perspective. Um, Hollywood then saw this and said, I wonder what would happen if we did our own thing. Hence, they started off with Shaft. Very great photographer and filmmaker Gordon Parks directs Shaft. And that becomes a big success. And that's just through the Hollywood system. And then after that, you got your Superfly and so on and so on until it got to the point where you ended up getting Dolemite, which was really, really bad indie filmmaking by the comedian Rudy Ray Moore. And actually, I just read that Eddie Murphy, I guess, is going to portray Rudy Ray Moore or portray Dolemite. I'm not sure if it's going to be Dolemite the film or if it's going to be the life of Rudy Ray Moore, but somehow it's coming to Netflix, whatever. So you get this whole uh, rash of films that started coming out, you know, defeating the man and da 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 da, and this is what they wanted to see, and blah 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 blah, and we all, you know, in the culture ran off and saw these films and put money into the Hollywood system and, you know, revitalized Hollywood because they were fucking on their last leg. And I believe it was when Jaws came out and made a hardcore impact. And, you know, it was one of the reasons, or probably the sole reason, why they came up with the term blockbuster, because it was such a huge hit that people were going 3 and 4 times. Hence the same thing with Sweet Sweetback and some of the other blaxploitation films. Now, Jaws is not a blaxploitation film, but I'm just explaining how Hollywood had a big fall off until these black films came into existence, and then Jaws came, and then Star Wars came, and the big event films, and I'm sure they had a couple of bumps here and there, you know, within the blaxploitation era, you know, as that started to fade, but pretty much it wasn't until Jaws dropped. I might have my dates incorrect, but I'm not sure of like the Towering Inferno and things of that nature were also released kind of around that time. And it makes me think, because now we have The Rock's Skyscraper coming out, which kind of is a mixture of Die Hard and the Towering Inferno. And Die Hard, when that came out, it was kind of, you know, a mixture of the Towering Inferno and, you know, cop action, whatever, cop drama. So, you know, I bring this all back. I started thinking about this in February when we saw the huge success of the Black Panther. I know that Hollywood, as far as I'm concerned, a lot of them have think tanks. Now, don't get it fucked up in your head. A lot of these studios, they have lunch. A lot of these studio figures and heads, they have lunch together. They sit down and, you know, have lunch and meet and da. That's why you have like the AFM, which is the American Film Market. The 2 times that I went, it was explained to me on both times that that's one of the few times that a lot of the studio people get a chance to see one another. So one of the reasons why I stopped going, outside of just being completely indie, and there's other reasons for another time, is that you'd get to this market and you'd have a lot of industry people ignoring filmmakers. So basically we spent our money to come down, and all you guys are in Hollywood, and they get together and they have lunch and ignore filmmakers. So it's a waste of fucking money for people that are traveling to come network, and, you know, you get this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed idea that your film is going to get picked up and whatever, and you're going down there to basically be ignored so that these guys can get together and hang out. And a lot of the announcements that you hear at the film market, these shits have already been, just like when you see these, like production that I mentioned with Superfly, the film was already finished, but they made the media package seem like they were just going into production. A lot of these deals already fucking wrapped. They just wait for the markets to make the big announcements, just like they wait for like Comic-Con and stuff like that to make big announcements. Oh, you know, which is in a few weeks, you'll hear about Aquaman. We're going to hear about the status probably of Superman and Batman. Da 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 da. I'm bringing this all in to say that I would not be surprised if these studio heads got together when they, you know, or they have little lunches, and the word of mouth is that the Black Panther script, the way that everything is packaged, and Ryan Coogler, and who, you know, once they, you know, they kind of get word, you know, word on the street type of buzz, like, oh, you know, word on the street is that this is going to be a really big, it's going to be a really big hit. It's going to be a great look for Disney and Marvel. And, you know, I wouldn't be surprised based on their forecasting, which you've heard me mention before. When they forecast, they predict what these films are going to do. Hey, you know, this is going to be a really huge film for Marvel, and then it's going to be a few doorsteps away from the Infinity War. So we need to look at the figures and see what the stats are. We need to keep our eye on this to see, like, what the black slash Afro slash African American market is going to do within this genre. They probably did not expect it to bust the billion mark, but they knew that, hey, this is the one film, the one big tentpole film that we have a feeling is going to do huge numbers. It's the first of its kind, as far as Marvel, and if we do it right, and the history that goes with this character. When you look at how Wesley Snipes tried to make it and all the other times that we probably didn't even hear about. So I'm sure that they got together, their forecasting, and it makes me wonder if, and when I say forecasting, I'm not talking about, it came out in February. I'm talking about when Marvel first announced this film going into production, that, hey, we're going to, what was it, 2-3 years ago, when they dropped the curtain at Comic-Con and said, these are all the films that we have on that's going to be on the rise, and everyone saw Black Panther and they lost their shit. That's when the word of mouth pretty much picks up. And then as the snowball starts to build, the talkings begin. Oh, I heard that this film is going to be big. Hey, the word in the street is that the script is good. Hey, word in the street that Ryan Coogler's coming on in. And it starts to snowball. So studios start to sit back. Warner Brothers, DC, we've already exacerbated that whole conversation. They were probably looking in their archive at one point to see, hey, where can we have our own Black Panther? The closest thing we have right now is, hey, Black Lightning. But as far as the cinematic thing, at the time they had the big announcement The Rock was going to be the Black Adam. And even though he was a villain, they were going to do their whole little, we have a black villain / hero movie and whatever. But they've already shitted, and they're not really even considered to be on the pot as far as competing with Marvel right now. So they go back, they think about, what films can we do? Can we create, or / recreate to, live in this energy? And hence we have the remakes of Superfly, which, don't get me wrong, I'm sure was in the works over and over, just like how Shaft was. They kept, at one point, they were going to release it as a comedy. And at another point, it was supposed to be based off the comic book series that they have for Shaft. And I think the comic book writers were involved and they stepped away or something to that effect. You can do your Googles and, do the research. But I'm saying all this because I wonder if they sat back, thought about this and said, hey, what if we brought this film in? And what if we bring this one? Because right now, think about this. It's just popping in my mind. And I just said it. You have Superfly, right? You have Shaft already on the buzz, probably coming out the end of this year. And I just mentioned Dolemite, Rudy Ray Moore. So, and I want to also bring in the fact that they probably looked at the numbers of what Michael Jai White's film Black Dynamite did. And they said, oh, yeah, there's an audience there, which basically spoofs all of these films, and is, kind of, maybe unbeknownst to him, it's like more of a gateway for Hollywood to go, that did some moderate numbers. There's an audience there. He's doing moderate numbers. He produces his own stuff. This Black Panther film is coming out. Maybe we should dust off, these old scripts and, hey, what if we did this? Hey, what if we did this? Okay, let's green like this. Let's green like that. Let's green like this. So I really would not be surprised to, see a lot more remakes. At one point, they were trying to make a Truck Turner film. And I believe LL Cool J, his name was attached to it at one point. This is years ago. So I would not be surprised if now the dust is going to get blown off of that. And this is all to cash in on black dollars once again. I mean, there already is not as if, there aren't Afro cultured people going to the films already, but they, see now like, hey, our forecasting was right on the money, or it superseded what we thought it was going to do. So why not? Why not? Let's just push these films. Let's get more of these films. So now we're going to transition from the slavery and traumatic films, now back into and remakes, because they did remake roots, and start pushing this, as Richard Pryor used to call the super nigga narrative, for us, for us to go out and spend our dollars and go see. Now, let's keep in mind what ended up happening is that what Hollywood is typically known for, they start watering down the product. Now, I don't know how good this film is going to be, whatever. It is what it is. But what happens is that the product starts getting watered down. And that's what happened in the BlaxPloitation era. It was just bullshit films that they were just like, it's Black Snake starring whatever football player, not knocking on Jim Brown, because they would like just going for any fucking football player after the success of what Jim Brown was doing. Let's just get this guy and this basketball player and put him together and put him in a movie, and he has a gun and So, there's going to be a tendency for these films to get watered down, probably because you're going to have a lot of prominent black filmmakers that are more than likely are getting snatched up for these superhero franchises. So I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of these movies won't land so much in theaters based on the hits or misses of the Superflies, of the Shaft, and whatever else that they have quietly in development, and they start landing on these digital platforms, as a lesser expensive route, to go in, to get the Afro eyes looking at their content, to take away from, the more popular Afro filmmakers that are already making TV shows and things of that nature. So it's just a thought that's been, playing in my mind for months now. And I thought, I've put it off just to get a little bit more information about it. Oh my gosh. I just had another thought too, but let me finish my sentence. I've been putting it off, and kind of sitting on it and putting it off. But I'm kind of glad I did because, with seeing the success of Black Panther and now, which was going to lead into my point, I knew for a while that Will Smith was planning on remaking an Uptown Saturday Night and basically trying to turn that into a trilogy. And that was also in that era as well. But you had, at that point, there was certain blaxploitation, or there were certain films in that era that were directed by black filmmakers, and there were certain films that were not. And hence you got a lot of watered down bullshit. But we live in a different time now where people are speaking up. It's going, well, if you're going to do a black film, it should be a black director. If you're going to do a female film, it should be a female director. If you're going to do a black female film, it should be a black female director. And da-da-da-da-da. I'm on the fence with that because you can only run that card for so long, to a point. To a point that is going to, because then at a certain time, you're going to have filmmakers going, well, I could direct Superman. Why can't I direct Superman? I've directed these other films and I've had multicultural audiences come out and see this. And then, the system could basically say, well, we've given you these films and we've given you those films when you've wanted. You wanted females for that, black females, we gave you that. You wanted black filmmakers on that, we gave you that. But now we have our films that aren't, or we have films that aren't for black filmmakers or Afro filmmakers or Afro female filmmakers. And this is where we're at with this. We don't want Ava DuVernay directing Wonder Woman, 4. We want such and such, Angelina Jolie directing Wonder Woman 4 at this point in time. It's kind of like backing ourselves in the hole when we play that game. I digress. So it's just, I don't think that it's a coincidence that there was an announcement regarding traction on Will Smith's Uptown Saturday Night being remade. Excuse me. Within this, era of me stating that, hey, is the BlaxPloitation era slowly sliding in? What do you think? Let me know.